All right, good morning. Welcome to Friday, September 16th. Sure good to see you today. Today's reading will be Daniel chapters 10 through 12. Now, chapter 10 is somewhat of an introduction to chapters 11 and 12. Daniel prayed, he fasted 21 days, talks about the Prince of Persia there. Some people think that's talking about Satan, but then at the end it talks about then the Prince of Greece will come. I think that's talking about Alexander the Great, but I'm not real sure. So by this time, Daniel is around 80 years old. You see is by the river Hiddekel. So he's by Shushan. So the Medes and Persians, their capital is Shushan, not Babylon. So you would assume that Daniel moved there at some point. Remember, Esther takes place from Shushan. By the way, do you like how filthy I am here? A little bit of drywall over everything. For the first time ever, we have electricity in one of our buildings over here. So pretty happy about that. Now, my opinion slightly is that up to verse 9, it is actually an Old Testament appearance of Jesus Christ, theophany. I believe that after that, it is somebody else, but I'm not sure who. And I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Michael is an archangel, and you see him listed. You could search and find it, Jude 9, Revelation 12, and a couple of places. As you see there, the speaker came to show Daniel a vision. Now, most of it is going to cover the next 200-300 years, but then part of it will cover then the last 42 months of the tribulation, half of the 70th week. Now, Daniel chapter 11 is fascinating. I taught a year ago an hour on this, which is kind of funny. I'm going to post the video down in the description, so maybe go check that out. 53 minutes. If you push play and then watch it at 1.5 speed, then that's going to take it down a little bit. But I speak on all the different kingdoms that are mentioned here. Daniel chapter 11 is so accurate that it made people deny that Daniel was written by Daniel. They think, well, it's just it's 2nd century BC. But even if that's the case, he still got the crucifixion right. He still got the birth of Christ right. Go watch that when you have a couple minutes. The Bible study was a year ago. Matter of fact, I had just gotten COVID. The camp in California, the super spreader event, brought it to us. And what's funny is I was starting my mind fog, and I barely remember teaching it. So it was fun to go over the notes again. So I won't talk about Daniel chapter 11, other than to please go watch that video. I was just looking at my notes again. I feel like teaching this because I know you're not going to go watch that video. All right. Then chapter 12 is the conclusion, but it also talks about the tribulation time. Now remember, Daniel's 70th week is 7 years. But remember, when we talk about great tribulation, we're only talking about the second half, 42 months. So when we as Christians call the tribulation the great tribulation, it's technically only the second half. The first half is going to be a time of peace. And because we call it the Great Tribulation, and it's kind of clear from Scripture that it's not all tribulation, that there's some then that go with a mid-rapture or pre-wrath teaching based on our call and mock us for calling it the wrong thing. And they're somewhat right about we do call it the wrong thing. All right. So then the rest, I just skipped a bunch of notes here on this too. Some people use that verse 2 there, talking about soul sleep. Remember, the body is sleeping, but the spirit and the soul are with Christ. We'll get our new bodies later. Now notice that Daniel's told to shut up the words, but then we get to Revelation chapter 22, verse 10, and it says, seal not the sayings of this prophecy. So I believe throughout this chapter, Daniel actually sees some of the things in Revelation, but really isn't allowed to talk about. Now, when God put this in there, even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. We're in a time like that. I mean, where does knowledge go from here? Every one of us has the summation of all of human knowledge and accessible with this thing right here. All we have to do is search. Now, we may not understand half of what we look at, but we have it there. Now, look down in verse 7. It says, I swear by him that liveth forever and ever, thou should be for time, times, and a half. So that's time, times, and a half. 3.5 years. All right, now look at verse 11. It talks about as well. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. 1,290 days, 3.5 years. But notice here in verse 12, blessed he that waiteth and cometh the 3,305 5 and 30 days. That's 1,335. Some people take that 45-day difference to be possibly a cleanup that is elsewhere after Armageddon. All right. Man, Daniel's a lot of fun. And like I said, and I'm sorry if I drag you down a little bit when it comes to Isaiah, Jeremiah, but and then we get to Daniel, there's so much stuff here. So I think our next couple books, we have Nehemiah, we have Esther, Ezra, and some good stuff in there. And we have to be in the New Testament by October 1st. So I'll do some math there, figure that stuff out, see what we haven't read yet. I think those are the only 3 books we have left in the Old Testament, but I'll double check. All right. Now, get over there. Daniel chapter 11, the Bible study. Or not, whatever. Have a great day. We'll catch you tomorrow.